If you would have had a normal, not Stop the Steal, not MAGA, DeSantis, Kemp, actual conservative in Pennsylvania, then Fetterman would have lost. Oz and Fetterman, a super, super tight race. We're looking at Fetterman here with 2,634,000 votes and change. Dr. Mehmet Oz, 2.4,556,000, something like that. We're in that range, so it's pretty close there, but 50.5% to 47.1%. Fetterman breaks the 50% threshold to win. Now, Fetterman had his stroke. Now, people say Fetterman's a radical. He's brain dead. He's, yada, yada, yada. It seems like people who have strokes generally recover cognitively for the most part, except for verbal, maybe some like proprioceptive issues, things like that. Here's the thing about Fetterman that just put it in a situation where if you were mad about Fetterman, if you're mad about Fetterman winning the election, right, over Dr. Oz, there's one person to blame for that. And his name is Donald J. Trump. Okay. I forget the other guy's name that was going to run, that was also ran in the primary against Oz. Trump endorsed Oz because he thought Oz could win because ladies who watch daytime TV like Dr. Oz. That was Trump's rationale. We all know that Trump is retarded. We understand this as a community, generally speaking, whether you like him or not. The dude's a f***ing idiot. And that was a dumb decision. If that wasn't the case, I wish I had that information here with me, but if that wasn't the case, then Fetterman would have lost. If you would have had a normal, not Stop the Steal, not MAGA Republican in Pennsylvania, right? A DeSantis, Kemp type palatable Republican, conservative, actual conservative in Pennsylvania, then Fetterman would have lost. But what you had was somebody who doesn't live in Pennsylvania, doesn't know shit about Pennsylvania, that does ads about crudité, right? Who is dripping in Gucci every time he walks around somewhere, who cannot even try to make himself relatable. At least Trump somehow made himself relatable to working class people, even though he's never met one. Dr. Oz can't even try. And your opponent is someone who was the lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania, who knows Pennsylvania, who was a big supporter of Bernie Sanders, right? So he has some of that energy from the working class. And of course, that person is going to have a chance. And in this case, it shows that they won because Pennsylvanians aren't stupid. Like Dr. Oz, and I say that about Dr. Oz, and I just want to tell a story. I talked on Instagram about this, but I actually ran into Dr. Oz on Abbott Kinney in LA when I lived out there. And I was walking down the street and I was getting a coffee or something. I don't know. One of those things you do on Abbott Kinney on a random day. And I was walking and this guy walks towards me and I'm like, God, that guy looks like a douchebag. And it just like ran through my mind. And then as you get closer, it was just like Gucci shirt, Gucci sunglasses, but like tacky looking. And it was Dr. Oz. And I'm like, wow, that guy just like, before I even knew that it was Dr. Oz, I was like, oh, that guy is like a lot. You know what I mean? And so from then, I've always seen him through that lens since then. That was a few years ago. And I've seen him through that lens and I'm like, when he started running, I'm like, this guy doesn't know how to be relatable. Like this guy, he walks around in one of the douchiest environments on the planet, right? Abbott Kinney in LA is one of the douchiest environments that exists on the planet, right? And even in that environment, a douchebag like me is dwarfed by the douchiness that exudes from Dr. Oz. And no one can expect that guy to win an election in Pennsylvania, dude. It's in the Rust Belt. I just don't understand. So it's like there's one person to blame for Fetterman being in the Senate, and that is Donald J. Trump. I will also say that it's very likely that a Republican could have won the governor's seat in Pennsylvania, but it was Mastriano, who is a Stop the Steal advocate. So we're seeing where this is landing, right? And it wasn't even close. 55.8% from Shapiro to 42.4%. Not even close. So we're seeing a referendum on Trump here. And you're going to see that theme throughout the day. Now we've got Kari Lake over in Arizona is down a little bit. Kari Lake is down a little bit right now. They said it could take till Friday. I don't know what the is going on in Arizona why they can't count these votes. The thing about the vote counting that's really a trip to me is like it's Republican state legislatures that don't allow the electoral body to count the early and mail-in ballots before election day. So like you see that kind of blue wave on the back end, which causes a lot of skepticism, which is unhealthy because of Republican legislatures, which I think they actually want that because they want Republicans and Democrats want to undermine elections because that helps them avoid responsibility for failure. And they love avoiding responsibility for failure, right? See somebody, have you heard anybody take credit for endorsing the Iraq war? Anybody? I think somebody on Fox News did it, but that was it. One person, right? Like they don't ever want to take actually responsibility for their idiocy. Same thing. COVID, is anybody going to take responsibility for the mistakes there that like pushed them hard? No, they want amnesty, right? So it's like the political parties need to be able to undermine election results on either side because it helps them avoid responsibility. So I think Kari Lake will probably pull this off. Maybe not. Huge surprise there. And if that's the case, in Maricopa County, there was voting machines shut down for a little while. I think it all, at this point where we're at with it now with the Maricopa County stuff, with the how long it takes, like they've got to figure something out. And also just know that any information you get will be either downplaying the significance of polling stations being shut down or overplaying their hand when it comes to polling stations being shut down. Like it's culture war now. So good luck getting any accurate information on what actually happened because it's this confirmation bias soup here. But we've got Kari Lake. They say Ben Masters has a chance. I don't see that. He's got a long way to come up. So moving on. Let's see here. Who else we got? Oh, Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker going to runoff. And that was really close. So 49.2% for Warnock, 48.7% for Walker. Now, that's only a difference of, what is that, around 20,000 votes. And then you have the Libertarian here, Chase Oliver, with 2.1% or 81,000 votes. Depending on where those 81,000 votes go, assuming the exact same voter turnout in the runoff, Herschel Walker could win that race. If you think about most libertarians being relatively right-leaning, but Herschel Walker is just an atrocious, just a terrible candidate. Like candidate quality on the Republican side, the bar was so low, and the candidate quality is just absurd. It's abysmal. Like the reason that we're here is one, like they let Trump run a lot of these tickets, but the Trump run tickets have done terrible, like just awful. And his endorsements got you through a primary, but they didn't get you through a general. And it's, and Raphael Warnock, right? Like I watched him debate, I forget his name. But anyways, this guy can move to the left and the right of a conservative. It was really interesting to watch him do that when it came to abortion, when it came to individual rights. I think he's a skilled politician. Now, I don't agree with everything he has to say, nor do I agree with everything anybody has to say, but he's a pastor, right? So he has that resonance with the religious black community in many ways, and the religious community as a whole. And then you've got Herschel Walker, who's talking about family values, but his gay son is losing his mind, who's like a conservative commentator and yelling about his dad being a piece of shit, right? He's paid for a handful of abortions while he's also talking about fathers not being in the home while he wasn't in the home for really any of his kids being raised, right? So you get this, and then you have these kind of pro-life advocates saying, well, we don't really care what he did. He can be a hypocrite all he wants. We just want the vote in the Senate. And that's just terrible. It's gross. And what the Democrats do is disgusting as well. Don't get me twisted, but like, does anybody hear that and go like, yeah, you know what? I support that. Like no one's thinking that way. No one feels that way. It's disgusting. So it's like, what are we doing here? What are we really doing here? And it makes sense it's going to run off. I wish it would have been ended. I don't want Herschel Walker representing any state in the union here. Like this is just, we're better than this as a culture. I would assume. I think Georgia's a better state than Herschel Walker. While he may need to have his number retired and be on the Hall of Fame somewhere of something, or several things, college and football and the NFL. He's not built for public service. And his CTE is a problem, right? Now, the difference between CTE and a stroke is CTE, you can go one direction. A stroke you can recover from. But I even get myself tripped out about CTE because of the amount of football I played. And Herschel Walker got hit a lot more times and a lot harder than I did. So moving on, let's talk about Beto in Texas real quick. So let's see. Greg Abbott got, let's see, where were totals at? Here we go. 54.8% of the vote. He beat Beto O'Rourke by almost 11 points. Was anybody surprised? I mean, I see people were like, yeah, cheering this on. It's like, is anybody surprised? Beto O'Rourke, when he said, hell yes, we're coming for your AR-15s, I turned to my wife, then girlfriend, turned to my wife and I said, I just watched somebody's political career die. As soon as it happened. I was like, and he's done forever. And she was like, she reminds me that every time his name comes up, he's like, oh yeah, that's the guy whose political career you saw die. And we all did in real time. It was embarrassing. So it's like Beto can talk and talk and talk. Now, what I wanted to show here, though, that was kind of interesting is being a Texan. You can see, I kind of found my county, Young County. O'Rourke got 627 votes. God damn it. Hang on. That's hilarious. Beto got 627 votes in my home county. That's hilarious. I wonder who those people were. That cracks me up. Okay, but anyways, we got El Paso County went for Beto, Dallas County, Travis County, there's Austin and Hayes County as well, Bexar County, Maverick, Salada, Dimmitt, Webb County, Duval, Jim Hogg County, Brooks County, Starr County, Cameron, Willacy, Harris, and Fort Bend. Those are both over in Houston. So you're seeing your major hubs here. Now, Dallas going blue kind of doesn't really surprise me. It was relatively close. Fort Worth, though, red as Fort Worth and Weatherford over there for my North Texas homies. Yeah, but what we're seeing here is this kind of Rio Grande Valley area is blue again, which we saw in 2020 with Trump. A lot of that has swung red. So Beto did have some support. I mean, obviously in El Paso, that's where he's from. But yeah, I mean, not a terrible turnout, but that's where he's going to be. When he ran against Ted Cruz, he had a lot of energy. And I actually was a Beto fan at that time, which is more of a residual lingering of my Bernie Sanders support. But when you look at this, I mean, it's not a bad turnout for a Democrat in Texas. Now, Texas is not going to turn blue because there is more split among the Hispanic community than there used to be. It used to be a very reliable, not long ago, Democratic voting base. And now that's just not really the case. But regardless, interesting stuff here. Really interesting stuff. So Beto O'Rourke goes down. Greg Abbott remains the Texas governor. One thing I wanted to bring up here, let's see. Next, Lauren Boebert is looking to lose. Let me see if I can find her on here. Oh, yeah, here we go. 81.26% reporting. Adam Frisk on the western slope of Colorado at 149,421 with Lauren Boebert at 145,946. So we've got about a 4,000, a little less than 4,000, 3,500 vote difference there between the Democrat in a very, very red part of Colorado and Lauren Boebert wannabe Sarah Palin. Like, that's where we're at. So it's watching Lauren Boebert go down is a referendum on the MAGA world. Now, will she call voter fraud? I'm sure she will. I am sure she will, but that's pretty fucking interesting to me. I did not see that coming. I mean, she won that seat outright as a business owner, a pro-Second Amendment business owner, the whole thing. She won that primary. She won that seat, and it wasn't even fucking close. And here we are now, and it's looking like she might lose to a Democrat in Grand Junction, Colorado. Insane. Absolutely insane. Now, the least surprising result from last night was Ron DeSantis absolutely destroying it in Florida. Now, people you see the Charlie Kirks or whatever on Twitter. They're like, yeah, Florida's a red state now, hardcore red state. Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that Florida is a Ron DeSantis state. But I think when it comes to a general presidential election, it could be up for grabs. I really do. I think that DeSantis is, because of the way he handled COVID. Now the rest, and because the liberal media, if you want to call it that, made him a villain, he has more support. Because DeSantis was made a villain and handled it well, right? Here's the thing. They made Trump a villain too. And Trump sometimes handled it well, and sometimes Trump absolutely fucking blew it. But DeSantis kind of acted like an adult. Kind of. He was a little bit petty and childish every now and then, but he didn't exude petty childishness all the time. And I thought that was really impressive of him and how he handled that, because they were coming at him hard. You know, I get petty and childish. You guys see me on Instagram. I turn into a fucking child sometimes. I get it. As a politician, I'd probably do it just as much. Can you imagine me as a, you know, I'll probably, if I ever run, I don't know if I'd run it as a Democrat or a Republican, but I can go either way, which is fun. I can just, whichever one is most likely to win, I'll just run there, right? Because I don't really give a shit, because I'm gonna be a party standout regardless of which side I'm on. And that's kind of fun, actually. I'd rather run it as an independent, but that just makes it so much harder. But when you think about that, it's okay. What would I do in that situation? It's really hard not to either go down the rabbit hole and get super entrenched and defensive and all that shit, and just stand your ground, unwavering, and just do your thing. Do what you think is best. Do what you think is best. And we have not had that in the White House since Obama, really. I mean, Obama was, remember when Obama would talk a little bit of shit and he'd give you that little smirk, that little Obama smirk? You know what I'm talking about, when he was being a little cheeky cunt, right? I love being cheeky. Obama could do that. And I think DeSantis can also do that in his own way. You know, I very much can see DeSantis being that charismatic figure in the Republican Party in the same way that Obama was in the Democratic Party. And I think the funny thing is, because the bar is set so low, after George W. Bush, the bar was so low that like we wanted this like compassionate figure. He flipped a lot of states and really chaos ensued with the states that he was able to flip. I mean, Ohio, Florida, like these red states. I mean, it was overwhelming when he did win. And I think we may see a similar environment with DeSantis as far as him flipping states that you didn't think. Like, I think DeSantis would win Colorado. I really do. I think almost every single purple state would go for DeSantis if it was against Kamala or Biden or Pete Buttigieg. I mean, or Beto O'Rourke. Like any of these people that like want to run again, who were all just like poor copies of Obama, they can't run against genuine support. Like they're just going to get their asses handed to them. And so what this is, when we look at this whole scheme here, this whole breakdown, DeSantis winning by over 19 points in Florida, and Trump-backed candidates getting either barely winning, right? We have J.D. Vance who won in Ohio, right? J.D. Vance won in Ohio, but that's a very red state, right? And he won by a significant margin, but it was like 9 points. I don't even have it up here, but it's like that's not a surprise, right? But where there was a challenge, Republicans barely eked it out or failed to eke it out. But in Florida, Marco Rubio holds his seat by a huge margin, and DeSantis winning by 19 points. And we're also noticing a lot of split ticket voters, which I love. A lot of split tickets. And that wasn't supposed to be a thing anymore, but now you're seeing people getting more engaged in voting on the issues, right? And I think we're going to see more and more of that going into 2024, which is a threat to the establishment, which makes me rock fucking hard, baby. Let's go. I love it when the establishment is threatened. It makes me so fucking happy. So yeah, when we've got this Oz Fetterman did the thing. Carrie Lake, I think, might pull that off. We're still going to have a lot of news now. All the focus is going to be on the Georgia runoff. Beto, unsurprisingly, loses in Texas. But the Rio Grande Valley, I mean, he had a respectable turnout for Texas. Lauren Boebert looking like she's going to get upset on the Western Slope. DeSantis just being DeSantis, and it's his time, guys. He's got the leverage now to actually go after Trump and finish this off. But will he do it? He's got the leverage. Does he have the balls? So what we're looking at now is about the Republicans will have about 220 seats in the House and a slight majority by 1 seat or a split in the Senate. We'll see. We'll know after that Georgia runoff whenever that goes down. So that's where we're at. I want to share with you what it takes to create this kind of content. I have to sift through piles and piles of bullshit from political ideologues that are completely ridiculous and try and find the truth. I've got to go from the left to the right to the center, all over the place. It's exhausting. I'm losing my fucking mind. But one thing you can do to help me out and help my mental health is subscribe to this channel. Turn on post notifications, like this video, leave a comment, just something, please. I'm losing my shit and you're the only one that can help me. Subscribe to the channel.